Ultimately, and it sounds like you do it with your team, it's laying that groundwork up front, right? Like so much of real estate is reactive at first. So for anybody trying to start their business, it's really being proactive.
Welcome LabCoatAgents to our another great episode that we're having here today. And I'm excited, we get to spend a couple minutes in the green room, and I was talking to Megan and Parnell, and we're just talking about building a business. So many of us as real estate agents, we get very excited. We get into this business and we're super excited about it. And basically we end up with a job, and there's nothing wrong with the job. If that's what you want, fabulous, go for it. Lots of great people have great jobs. We're not anything bad, but what we want to talk about today is just how to go from having a job or being self-employed to actually having a business. So a couple of things before we get started. Just if you're somebody who's interested in watching a replay of this, we will absolutely have a replay, and it'll be on our YouTube channel. But without any further ado, I'm going to pass over to you guys. Thank you so much for being here today. Why don't you just introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about you and your business, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Sure. My name is Parnell Quinn. I started real estate when I was 5 years old. It's one of my favorite stories to tell people. Dad used to have us walk around the neighborhood and pretend we were lost. And so we'd have to go into the house and obviously call Dad, and he'd come over and meet the owners and see what their plans are with their house. So I'm a third generation real estate agent. So I've been doing it a while, and I teamed up with Megan.
Yeah, my name's Megan Luther. So I've been in Colorado for the last 16 years. Parnell's family owned all the RE/MAX franchises in the mountain areas back in the day, and they sold them in 2010. And so Parnell and I branched off and started the Simple Life real estate company. And we were an independent brokerage for 10 years before we made the jump over to eXp Realty.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you again for being here today. So let's just jump right into it. So, the title is going from self-employed to being a business. I'll ask just kind of a no-brainer question. What's step one?
Well, step one is starting with the end in mind. Everybody always thinks when you're starting a business is to build the business first. Well, what you really want to do is start with, how do you want to end up in the business? Do you want to be working in it every day? Do you want to be a true owner of a business where you have people working for you and you can leave for 6 months and you come back and your company's actually growing? So I recommend people, and I teach a class on this, but I recommend to people that they start with the end in mind. And where do you want to be in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years is your real goal. And that 10 years, you got to stretch your mind out. Like we went with a group, Cardone Ventures, and we did this thing called platforming. And they, based on where we are and the people we know, if we stay on the trajectory we were on, we'll have a $75 million company in 10 years. And right now we have 8 agents. So it's mind blowing when you think about it. But if you know where you're going, it makes it a lot easier to get there.
Well, if you don't mind, and you don't have to share this, but I'm gonna put you on the spot. What is your 10-year vision? So just give people an idea. Like sometimes I think people like, oh, we're going to close 100 transactions or something, like, but I'm going to go out on a limb, and we didn't talk about this, but I'm guessing you have a much bigger vision than closing 100 deals a year. So where do you see that in 10 years? Just give people that kind of perspective so they know how big you're thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. So along that path, as Parnell was saying, in that platform, it factored in, we would have 5,000 productive agents all over the United States and even the world. And that helps us get to that $75 million target. And then that doesn't even factor in, that's just straight up real estate production, all of those revenue goals. That doesn't factor in any of the multiple income streams that we have opportunities to earn through eXp as well. So it's pretty exciting where we can go.
And when you ask about deals, it's mind numbing what you have to think about. So each agent of those 5,000 agents has to be producing somewhere between 10 and 25 deals a year. So you can
which is not too much of a stretch. I don't think at all, but
the average agent does about 6 deals a year.
Okay, so that's kind of where I was at. So you're looking for these 5,000 agents to average, let's just say 12 transactions a year. So in essence, what you're asking them is to be double the average agent. Is that fair math?
Right.
That's fair.
So what makes them have that opportunity? I mean, obviously, this webinar is not necessarily about eXp or any other things else. And again, eXp, clearly you guys are eXp. If I can't figure out that, then I'm broken. But And I like that you picked EXP. And by the way, I'm not an EXP agent, got no thing, but you looked at it in that 10-year vision and said, well, if we want to be an independent, that's going to be a heck of a lot harder to have 5,000 people underneath us all over the world versus potentially being at EXP. So I'm assuming that that was one of the reasons that you chose EXP as part of your partnership in essence in doing that. Is that
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yep.
It was the growth plan that they had.
Yep, we just plugged into a model that's already rocking and rolling, and we can, see our growth trajectory within that.
Like even with Remax, you could buy franchises all over the place with Remax, but you had to buy a new franchise and you had to set up a whole brick and mortar office, right? So that was a drain. So where we're going next to help you out is how you hire people, when you hire, why you hire is what you want to look at. And you know, the times that you hire is when you're doing too much business and stuff slipping through your fingers. You find yourself going back to what you know, and that's reading your emails and hiding from people. Yeah, right. I mean, we're being honest on here, right? Transparent.
Yeah.
You start to think about why did I get into this business if all I do is work 110 hours a week?
Yeah,
Right.
one of the first things for us, and that we overlooked initially, right, is like Parnell replicated himself with me. And then we were doing it as one-offs. So after, Parnell said, first thing you look at is how do you want to exit? Like, where do you want to get to? The next thing would be duplicating yourself, but doing it with 2 people at a time. That has been a huge game changer for us. It's like that rule of 3, it's you and then 2 others. Because if one of those people drops off, you've still trained this other person who can then help you train whatever, the replacement. And so you amplify your reach that much faster.
So go into that a little bit more in depth, because not everybody necessarily has heard of that concept or maybe understand it. So you're saying instead of hiring one person to duplicate me, I'm hiring 2. Is that?
Yes. Yep. That's
Okay.
it. Yeah. In essence.
So what you hire is it's so much easier when you're live talking to people. What you get the inclinations. What happens when you hire 2 people instead of 1 is you're training them for 2 different positions, but they're replicating you at the same time. So when I hired Megan, had I hired Marcus at the same time, I would have been training an office manager and an office team lead to run the companies. They'd both be doing real estate. They'd both be learning everything that I do. They'd go on every showing that I go on. They'd come on every buyer agency appointment that we do, right? They would be there with me so they could learn it. That's learning through osmosis. Then you set up your team on what books you want them to read so they can start being better, like the 21 Laws of Leadership.
Great book.
Great
Good book.
Yeah.
Think and Grow Rich. For those that haven't taken the time to read, I'm reading it for the 5th or 6th time. How to win friends and how to influence people and win friends.
Friends and influence people. Dale Carnegie.
Carnegie.
I have a little dyslexia, so every now and then things jump around in the brain. So what happened is I trained Megan. So then when we went to replace me, we couldn't. So because I only trained 1 person, so I still had to stay in production for 10 years while she was doing production. Now she can answer all the questions. So the team only asks me questions when Megan can't figure out an answer. And then I have lawyers. If I can't figure out the answer, I have lawyers that I've worked really well with for 20 years, and I ask them the question, because if we're falling into legal stuff, that's where I back up if I can't answer it.
The thing with the rule of 3 as well is dividing out. I'm sure you've heard this too, right? You put things in 3 columns. Like, what's your highest producing return on investment? Things that you need to do and focus on, even though they may not be your favorite, but they have the best ROI. What are the things that you love doing that you probably shouldn't be doing? And then what are those immediate, like, mundane tasks that you can, give to somebody else? So part of that rule of 3 is dividing and conquering in that way as well. And to Parnell's point, once you're in that realm, people are around you, they're learning, by watching, and then you're assigning them all of these other extracurriculars like the books and everything. So they're growing into their own business, kind of their own business owner, really, right? Because you want, and especially in real estate, that's what everybody's, when they get into it, that's the big grand goal. Like, I'm going to own my own company. I have my own clients. I can do things my own way. And that's one of the amazing things about real estate is you totally can. It's just that you get strapped to that rocket ship and you can't possibly get off until you start to replicate yourself.
Absolutely. So we'll go to another simple question. What is your first hire? So I think we talked about it's not an agent. So for you guys, if you were coaching somebody, say, look, you're an agent, you've got significant production, you want to scale, you want to become a team leader, you want to have a team. What's hire number one? Because I think that's really important.
Yeah, I'd go twofold on this one though. It's admin and TC.
Yeah.
I would have somebody helping you facilitate with your sales, and then somebody who can support you administratively and help you keep your schedule, your calendar, and then,
Yeah, the TC is important because as you bring on team members, the TC can help you keep the deals in order and close. Your admin, which is your first personal assistant, and you want to hire that admin as somebody that's going to be the executive of your company. And we believe there's no executives until you hit 10 million. So it would be the general manager of your company, right up to that point. That's who you want to hire. And you got to bring them in with the mindset of, we're going to help you grow from where you are to a general manager. We're not going to expect you to stay a personal assistant for the rest of your life. Your pay is going to feel like a personal assistant until we bring on X number of agents and they start producing. Then your salary goes up. And when you give them that incentive, our team has actually started working a lot harder because now they understand how the numbers work. If we get all the agents producing, we make more money. So they're trying to figure out how to make it easier for the agents to produce more deals, which means taking away all the paperwork so they can go out and just talk to people. Right.
Awesome. Yeah. Let's all have mastery in what we're good at, right? Instead of trying to be a master of all trades. And I think that's what most real estate agents do. Like, what do? I talk to buyers, I talk to sellers, I do marketing, I do paperwork, and I do it. And guess what? I do most of it average at best, right? Because there's so many things. And, building a team for me, and I don't know about you guys, but it started with being able to spend my time doing things that I had mastered and then having other people master other things. So here's another question. You mentioned a transaction coordinator, which I'm a huge fan of. I think that's really vital. I think, that to me would have been my first hire. It was TC/admin because I wasn't that big when I hired that person. But how do you feel about outsourcing something like that? Because I know a lot of people start with an outsourced TC because they're like, well, realistically, the math isn't as good, but I still want the help. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay.
We actually hired a company to outsource it initially, and they did okay. What we found is bringing somebody in-house and really getting to know our nuances and how we like to function served us a lot better. But I think initially outsourcing a TC is totally fine. What I would ask them to do as well, just to help your future self, is to document for you their processes. Nice. Even if it's a loosely based outline, at least you have a jump off point. If you do go to hire somebody, you're like, well, this is what that TC did that I hired. So as long as you can do A through Z, we should be okay.
The other issue with hiring an outside TC, even having one inside, but outside is more dynamic, is the agents that want to do everything themselves still get in there and start doing everything themselves. And it almost makes the TC useless. And then they think, why am I paying you to get the TC to help me do the deal? Where in reality, if they let the TC do the work, they could be talking to the next client. And
I agree.
The other hard thing with agents is getting them to understand being a specialist is better than being a generalist. And that is really tough to get them to do. Now I'm like on the DISC program, I'm all driver. So I just like to go full steam ahead, and whatever falls behind me, I hope somebody's picking up, right? Because if they're not, my deals are nightmares by the time they come to close.
Yeah, welcome to my job.
Yeah,
I'm the cleanup crew.
So you said a very interesting thing, and as a team leader, as a business owner, I've struggled with this at times too. What do you do when that agent says, "Well, I would just rather do it myself"? So because it's going to come up. As a matter of fact, I want to say 3 weeks ago, I called an agent on Monday morning and said, "Why were you writing this contract over the weekend, or why were you doing this document?" And for a little reference point, in my state, there is never anything due on a weekend. In other words, all of our dates run Monday through Friday. So whether you do it on Saturday or whether you do it on Monday, it literally has the same effect. So what do you do with that person? Like where is that at for you guys when somebody thinks that they're better than the transaction coordinator, for lack of a better way to put it?
Yeah, no, that's
Right.
a great question, because we struggled with this as well. 1099 independent contractors, they are their own beast. They can be very much a challenge. One of the things that we implemented to help with the people component of it was talking to everybody that comes onto our team about their personal, professional, and financial goals, so that when they're doing something like that, you can pull out that piece of paper and have a conversation with them and say, hey, your goal is to get this many deals per year. When you do stuff like this, you get in your own way. Like we have these systems and processes set up to help you achieve where you want to go. Like, so just having that conversation more as a reminder, and like you're an advocate in their corner and not necessarily butting heads about it and fighting about it. It's like, hey, we're on this parallel path. We're all going in the same direction. Let us help you. Keep doing what you're doing over here that helps you succeed, and talk to those buyers and sellers and get deals done. But let this happen over here, because you're just distracting yourself from what your goal should be.
And like with your agent, what Megan said is, how many calls could you have made? How many people could you have talked to while you were trying to pound out this one document, right?
I love it. And that's exactly where I went as well. Is, this isn't the highest, best use of your time. And even if the highest, best use of your time on Saturdays hanging out with your family is a heck of a lot better than writing an addendum to a contract, right?
Right.
So
Absolutely.
that's absolutely good.
One of the things that we say to people all the time is when they lose a deal, or they get beat out, or at the end of closing, they lose their commission. I tell them it's their advancement to their college education. They've just paid to learn a very valuable lesson.
Yeah.
You chose to write a document instead of going out with a client, because you could hide and say, I was working, right? I was working on the document. And you could have gone out with a client. You could have gone out with your friends and met 2 new people, right? If you're taking your day off on Saturday, you can still enjoy and be productive. You just don't have to write
but
contracts.
Ultimately, and it sounds like you do it with your team, it's laying that groundwork up front, right? Like, so much of real estate is reactive at first. So for anybody trying to start their business, it's really being proactive, and this process documentation and putting systems into place, no matter how trivial you think they are initially, but writing down what you do every single day and how you do it. And even better if you can video record it, you're making your future life that much easier.
I love it. And go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You go.
I was just going to say, I've heard you say several times, document the process. And all of those of you who are listening to this, write that down. Document the process, because it's so vital, because you have you're brilliant one moment, and then there's 17,000 things that happen again. You might not be brilliant again. And I'm not trying to be facetious about that. I mean, we do so many things. And so I love that you guys are constantly documenting the process. And I heard that you document with your agents as well. Like, you came in, hey, this is what your goals are. This is what you want to, and we have all that stuff. And again, agents get amnesia. So I love that you have a document. Remember this thing that we signed and why you signed it and what we talked about. So that's awesome. So anyway, Parnell, I cut you off.
Yeah, no, that's good. What I was gonna say is, when you look at a team too, you have specialists in all teams, professional teams. A wrestling team is not the same as a professional football or basketball team. That's a bunch of individuals going for a single score. That's a regular office. That's an office of agents, right? That is not a team. So when you look at building a company, you want to build it as though you're building a professional team. You want your receivers to be the ones that get the ball and run it. You don't want your guy sitting on the sidelines that does the taping of the knees out there catching the football, right? So when somebody's writing a contract, when they're supposed to be out catching the ball, that's a violation of the team agreement. And so if you get the team agreement right, and everybody understands their position on the team, it cuts out a lot. And that's what we're working on this month. Just so you know, that's what we're working on right now, is we're asking our team who wants to be buyer's agents and who wants to be listing agents. Because doing both hurts your brain. Like you said, they get amnesia. I refer to them more like goldfish. They see this shiny object, they run after it, and they forget what they were thinking. Stay safe, don't bite the hook. They go right after the hook. Right. So that's how, agents. And it's because they're busy and they're high. Back to the disco program, they're high eyes. They're for entertainment. They want to be out and in front of people and talking. They're not detail oriented. And it's a huge trait to be an eye. It's a very great skill. I practice my eye all the time, so I seem nice, right? So that I'm pleasant when I'm with people.
Awesome. All right. So, we've got some basics there. We brought somebody on the team. We've, given some documentation. We've built goals and set up things, but let me take a step back. Like, where are you getting people from? Like because obviously you built the foundation. That's kind of what I heard. Correct me if I'm wrong, is that you built your foundation with your administrative staff. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now I got a couple of admins. I got a transaction coordinator. I got a personal assistant I'm going to grow into a GM, and that's amazing. But now I've got no one for these people to work for. So what's the next step for you guys? I mean, I'm kind of setting that up, but what does that look like for you, and what are you looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. So most of the agents that we have on our team currently have come through our sphere. So there are other people, friends, family that we've known that have said, this person's like going to be a great match for you guys. And so those are the ones that have really like grasped what we're trying to do. They see the mission, vision, they believe in it, they're ready to go. We had run some different ads and recruited other agents as well. And that's what we were talking beforehand, where we let some go and some left, because it just wasn't the culture that that we wanted to have for this company, for our team to continue to grow. They were, we joke, but it's, there's a little bit of truth in all these jokes. We live in Never Never Land. Like, we're up in a ski resort town in Colorado, and people run away here because they never want to grow up. And so they get into real estate because, heck, who couldn't sell real estate? No big deal. That's easy. And they like the paycheck. And so when they get into our environment, though, we're trying to teach and train and coach professional agents, because we really believe any client that we work with, this is the biggest purchase they'll probably ever make in their life. So why would you send somebody who's also a part-time ski patroller or, whatever it may be? We really take it seriously. And so they actually, most of them they opted out themselves, and it was pretty painless. So that was nice for us. And we focus on the things we can control and the people who want to be here and want to do what we're teaching them and showing them how to do.
So let's talk about what some of that stuff is, if you don't mind. So like, what are you can call them KPIs, standards, expectations. Everyone uses different language, but what is some of the stuff that's important to you? I say, hey, I want to join your team.
Yep.
What are you going to tell me I have to do to be successful or to even stay on your team?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So we do sales training every day. We have training modules. So we do that online. It's Cardone University. It's an awesome program. It teaches sales for everything. It's not real estate specific. And then we have, through our EXP family, we have coaches and mentors that also put on trainings every Tuesday for buyers, and on Thursdays it's for sellers. And so we let our team know, like, we want you to be engaged in this. And if you want to get top tier leads, because we do provide a lot of leads, and if you do want to work with sellers, like, we need to know that you've put in the time, energy, effort, and you can prove to us that you're proficient. So we'll have them essentially like test out of, give me the buyer presentation, okay, write me a buyer agency agreement. And then same thing for sellers, if that's the specialty that they choose, because we want to know when we send them out there that they're representing who we are. They're representing the Simple Life to the best of their ability, and they're going to do a great job for the clients that are in front of them.
And when you look at your person, you want to create your avatar, right? We're all used to what avatars are. Everybody plays video games. So you want to look at your avatar, and it's not age-based and it's not race-based, but it's efficiency-based. How do they think? How do they work? How do they want to work? Where are they going to grow? Will they incorporate your core values? Do they believe in your vision and mission statement? Right? If they don't, they're not going to be a good fit for the team. So you can start self-selecting those people out, and you can still bring them into your office if you want, but I wouldn't bring them right onto your team, because you want people in our team. We want them that are results oriented, disciplined, transparent,
accountable, aligned, and inspirational. We have 6 core values.
And they're up on our wall.
Yeah.
Right? And then, we want them to believe in our mission that we are going to hit that $75 million company in 10 years. We want them to be enrolled in that, in the vision. And I don't know if you've seen the South Park episode, The
Oh
last
man,
one.
if you haven't seen it, South Park, it's season 25, episode 3. It's about realtors and it's hilarious.
If you want to see how the general public feels about
Real estate
99%
agents.
of the real estate agents, that's what we're trying to change. We want professional agents doing professional jobs, being specialists, being really good at their what do you call it, their trade. And you know, that's what we're doing different, and that's why we've now become real selective about who comes on our team.
But and then to further answer your question, part of this recruitment process now for these people is getting on, you know, podcasts and putting that out on social media and doing different campaigns to let people know, like, hey, yeah, we're here. And if you're like-minded, you know, we're happy. We want to make other people's success easy. You know, Parnell's been in real estate for decades. He is, you know, generations of realtors in his family. You know, I've only been doing it for the past 16 years, but learned a lot and can share a lot. And that's what we're trying to do is real estate can be a low barrier of entry, but when you get to those exceptional agents and exceptional producing teams and things like that, like there's a lot to it.
There absolutely is. So let's talk about your actual standards, if you don't mind sharing what those are. So if I'm an agent on your team, how do I know if I get to stay or I have to leave? Or how do I know if I get premier leads or if I can just scrape the stuff off the bottom? Like, what are some of the things that you guys emphasize to me if I'm like, okay, how do I get these great leads? Or how do I do, you know, what are some of those standards, if you don't mind? Because I think it's so important. So many teams I talk to, I ask them, what are your standards? They're like, well, and if you don't have if you can't answer that question like that, in my mind, that means you don't have it.
Right.
So what are your standards, if you don't mind?
It's all about clarity. So we operate off a magnitude of impact scale, whereby it goes from poor, average, good, great, excellent, and remarkable. So our remarkable, we want our team members on remarkable or excellent. And what that means is you're closing at least 2 deals a month or 6 per quarter. You are recruiting agents. So we'd like them to have on an annual basis, we'd like them to at least recruit like 2 agents a month. So again, we've just set up these structures at these variable magnitude of impact on the scale. I'm trying to.
Yeah,
sorry,
you have to have 9 out of 10 5-star reviews, Google or Zillow, whichever way you want to send it to them. You just got to keep counting those up. This is the top remarkable position. You have to have been on all your training. You have to be able to memorize and know the buyer presentation, seller presentation without the slides.
Right.
You have to know your
scripts. Yep.
Know your script, how you read through it. You have to be able to take me out on a showing and sell me a house is one of the things that has to happen, right? Same with Megan. Either one of us you have to take out, because we're very particular about how you're going to drive us around. And was your car clean when we got into it? Was it clean on the outside? Did you care about that you had a client that you were picking up, right? So those are the remarkable. The guys that barely hang on, if you're doing good, that's you're talking to 2 sellers or 2 buyers a month. You may or may not close them. And we have guys that we on our team that have other businesses that they're still in. So we're working with them, and as long as they're good, they go out on their showings, they practice the scripts, they show up for coaching. That's good. Yep. That's all you have to do to stay on the team. You have to be willing to try and keep making your phone calls, and you're good to stay on the team.
And with that team structure, we do keep a scorecard. So like all of these metrics we're tracking, right? So that we can see. So if I have somebody walk into the office and they're looking for $1 million home, well, the agent that I'm going to hand them off to is the one who's done all their training, who's hitting their closing goals, who I know their presentation and how to do a good buyer agency. You know, they get people signed up, they get our fees, all of that stuff. And so they put their numbers in every day, and we know who's at the top of that scorecard and who's going to get those just slam dunk leads.
Awesome. Because we do get more of those than I think people think, especially someone like Parnell, like yourself, Megan. You know, Megan's only been doing this for 16 years. She said only 16, like everyone's been doing it that long. But my guess is you have a lot of repeat business. You have people coming back, and it's one of the great things about being with agents. I won't call you old. I'm probably older than both of you, but but experience. People have been around for a day or two, and you know, that's the beauty of it. Like someone like, I'm going to guess you guys don't actively go out and sell anymore. Is that accurate?
Correct.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
Parnell, I
So-
would say 95% of his business has been Sphere. And so what's really cool is to be able to hand off those trusted clients and friends at this point to an agent. You know, we're not hogging these. We have all these people coming in and we're like, hey, you're with us. You want to grow, learn, build your own business. Like, here, work with this guy. We know him. We've sold him 3 houses already, and, you know, or properties, whatever it may be. And so it's a really good feeling to be able to like send agents out with people that you know are gonna do business with them.
And
So go ahead, Bruno, please.
I was just going to say, you wouldn't think it, but being on our team, our #1 agent last year, his take home was close to 250,000.
Yep.
With no office expenses. And people forget that when you join a team, you get rid of a lot of expenses, probably 40 or 60% of what you make, right? That goes out for marketing and help and lunches and cleaning your car and all those fun things, right? We eliminate a ton of those costs for our agents. So they take home a lot more money at the end of the day.
And I think that's really important. You know, it's always interesting to me when people say I'm on this split or whatever that is, and you do the math on it and they're afraid of your split, which I don't know what yours is. Most teams are approximately 50-50, 40-60,
Yeah.
but you know, they're like, I'm not going to make as much money. Well, actually, if you do the math, you've worked less, you've created more leverage, and you actually end up having a significantly better life being on a team. Now, that's not true for every agent, but that there's plenty of agents who get stuck on a number. Well, I need this split or this split or this split. Well, that's just not our model. Let's talk about income. Let's talk about value. Let's talk about take home. Those are I don't know about you, but I can't spend a split, but I can spend $1. So I want more dollars. I don't want more splits, but that's just my approach. So
yeah, no, you nailed it. Yeah, for sure. That's always an interesting conversation to have with agents, right? Because they totally get hung up on that number. And there's companies now that are paying, like buying agents essentially. And you, like the people that have left our office, they had great production while they were here. There's 2 of them that haven't sold anything in the 6 months since they've left our company, you know? And so it's like, it's just, I don't know. It's validating for what we've got going on. That we're doing some things right.
Right. And the other guy, he ended up joining another team, and both of them have taken the last 2 months off. So I'd love to see how their business comes when they get back in. But
I'll quote my coach for a second. He says this, he says, people join your team and leave your team for the same exact reason.
yes.
So it's a very interesting concept when that was introduced to me. So if you're a team that's basically all about splits, I hate to say this, I'm going to say it rudely, you're screwed, because someone will come along and offer a better split. Won't necessarily be better value, won't necessarily be better opportunity, but it'll be a better split. And if you're recruiting to splits, you're going to lose people to splits and have a high turn. So to me, it's about value. And it sounds like you guys have tons of value from coaching, training, all that stuff in there. So congratulations. That's really awesome.
Thank you.
We've got about 15 minutes left. What's next for you guys? Where, you know, coach us for a second, say, okay, you got a team and you want to take the next step. We've got a TC, we've hired a couple of agents, we've got some training in place. What are other things that you guys have learned in the 16 plus? And Parnell, he's been doing this for 87 years. So, you know, somebody.
Exactly.
It feels that long.
Yes, it does. I understand.
Not to hound on it, but really that process documentation and clarity in communication, right? To your point with the team splits, like when we recruit people in, we're talking about the value adds, and when they can see it on a piece of paper, they're just like your clients, you know, they want to see it. So the more clear you can be, the better. And those expectations, like having it laid out and describing what's your value proposition. I think that's a really key component when you're building teams and attracting agents. So that the culture is big. You know, I know a lot of KW teams that KW does really great with culture, right? Like you talk to their agents, and even some of them that have left, they still are like, you know, KW has that figured out. So those are really important components to consider.
And I love that you're willing to talk about other brokerages. I was a KW agent. By the
Yeah.
way, I was an agent with that company that buys people too.
Yeah.
There's lots of different opportunities out there. And I love that you're willing to talk about it. And this feels like, and I hope that I'm reading this right, but it's an abundance mindset, right? It's not
100%.
I win, you lose, you win, I lose. It's win, win, win. And I love, I'm hearing that from you. You may not be saying those words, but I'm hearing them. I hope the audience is too. How can I help you? How can we help your business? And when it really comes across that that's important to you. So here's a great question for you. If you're interviewing somebody, what kind of deal breakers do you have? If I'm interviewing with you, what are those things you go, nope, that's not it? Or, be as specific as possible if you don't mind, because I'm sure you run into it.
Yeah. Do you mean for agents or like staff?
Agents. Let's go there. I think not that people don't know how to hire staff, but I think the biggest challenge in our industry isn't staff. I can run an Indeed ad and have 150 applicants in 5 minutes for staff, but not necessarily for agents. So I think it's really not that staff isn't important, but it's so important to get the right agents on your team so that you can push your business forward. Staff holds you together.
Yes.
Agents push you forward.
Yeah, absolutely. For us, it's actually them being willing to go through our 3-step process, right? Okay. So we have the conversation. Initially, it's behavioral, cultural, see if we feel like they're a good fit. The second time around, we're going to ask more questions and figure out some technical components. And then the third one is going to be based on our core values. We want them to show us that they align with who we are, where we're going. And that's something that's really important to us, is to make sure like they understand the importance of the mission, the vision, the core values.
Love that. So not enough people have mission, vision, core values, by the way. That's awesome.
Yeah. And that's just, you then know that they're invested. For us, that 3-part really means to us like, hey, this person gets it. They're willing to be committed. And as far as red flags, for me, and I haven't been doing this as long as Parnell, but for me, when people walk in and it's like, I want to get into this, the sales position or whatever, join your team because I want a flexible schedule. Flexible schedule to me is just like red sirens and run away. Cause I'm like, okay, that's great. Great to know. Like, because you guys, like anybody who's done this for a certain amount of time, it's like a flexible schedule to a certain extent, but it's more so that you're flexible in being able to show a house and write up an offer and do X, Y, Z, for your clients. Not so much you want to go on a trip or,
In one of my favorite questions, because I don't do the interviews, but I do talk to the agents at some point. My favorite question is, what do you like doing? And if I hear all the ings, swimming, fishing, biking, hiking, sleeping, partying, and working isn't one of them, that's a red flag for me. Because if you don't know that work is enjoyable and it's fun and it's part of your life, and everybody always asks for a work-life balance. Yeah. You have a life, and your work should be part of your life, and you should enjoy the work you do. Yep. I don't enjoy real estate every day, but I do enjoy it 99% of the time. Right. The days that I don't enjoy it was when I make a mistake and I'm like, I knew better than that. I knew better than that. Right. Well,
I appreciate that you like it 99% of the time. Full disclosure, I'm at about 80. So there's 20% that I'm pissed off, angry, frustrated, irritated. I mean, we're business owners, and those are the kind of things you deal with. And somebody did something stupid and somebody else did something stupid or trying to fix it. I mean, we deal with that all the time. Yep. So that's amazing that 99% of the time that you love it. Again, I'm at 80. I think I'm okay with that. And
I think there's a caveat because he's Irish. So he's a little bit crazy and he likes controversy. Right. So even the mix-ups, he's like, good, let's go. Let's figure this out.
I always like when I beat a lawyer, right? When a lawyer is telling me one thing, and I love going through the contract and getting to the line where it says, at the end of this, past this line is the end of the contract, and then the 2 agents sign. That's the one lawyers can't figure out, right? And I love it every time you get to that. This is between me and the agent. Are you representing the client or the agent? I'm representing the client. Well, then why am I talking to you? And I wait. I let them have their whole argument and then bring up that line.
I love it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. About 5 minutes left. So we've talked about deal breakers. We've talked about standards. What are some other insights as you've been building, as you continue to build, that you'd like to share with our audience? Because there are so many people who are afraid to start a team. There are so many people who think it's easy to start a team. There's so many misconceptions out there. So, maybe some of the misconceptions y'all had and what you've done to fix it and move forward and get to a place where you've got it seems like a very successful team in business.
Yeah, for me, it was the perception that, I watch these other high producers and people that have 350 people on their team. And I thought it would be, I don't know another way to say it, but I thought it would be easier, right? I thought if I had XYZ down, like I know how to sell real estate, I'm good at the contracts, like I keep everything organized, and we have these, systems documented. Okay, well, magnify the systems documented, multiply that by 1,000, because you need way more than that. And don't be afraid to fail. And we look at those teams and how successful certain companies are, and they're sharing all the wins, right? Because social media is just like, oh, they're so great here, award there. And you're like in the trenches, and you don't, like, there's days I don't feel like I'm ever going to see daylight, but I'm like, I remind myself of my goals, of the company's goals, and just know that you're going to screw up a lot. But the more transparent you are, the more honest you are, and the more willing you are to take responsibility for that, and then go fix it. Don't just shove it aside and ignore it, or think, well, shoot, that sucked, but I'm going to keep going. No, fix it, stop, fix it, and then go.
Yeah. I would say don't hide from the issues as they come up. If you got a team member that's not doing what you want them to do, have that conversation with them. Be authentic about it, be transparent about it, like Megan said, but have that conversation. Do you or do you not want to be on the team? And have an alternative for them. If you don't want to be on the 50-50 split because you don't want to be on the team, then you can go to this split, but you don't get any of the team advantages. You're your own agent, and
that's okay.
And see how you go. But
yeah.
You don't get my signs, you don't get my logo, you don't get to splatter my name across the area. You can go be yourself. Yes, it's with my company, but yes, it's still with yourself.
Yeah,
right?
Be a bit protective of what you're trying to build, right? You have your values and you have your vision. And so don't compromise on that. Like, don't be afraid to tell people, don't be afraid to go it alone for as long as you need to, until you find those people that are aligned with you and want to help you succeed. I think that's the greatest thing about the team members that we have that stick around. Like, they're excited to be here. They're excited about what we're doing. They really believe in it, and they'll go the extra mile. You don't have to ask them. They want to be a part of this.
And don't compromise on your mission, your vision, or your core values. The agents that we brought in that didn't work out, we lessened our core values to let them in,
right?
Because they were people that we liked. They seemed like they were getting the runaround from their other brokerage. So, hey, we'll help you out. Well, as soon as we helped them out and they made a little money, they thought they were all stars, and we're like, I don't need you. I'll go here. And it just hasn't worked out.
You're constantly learning and evolving in situations like that. It's easy to look back and be like, ugh, why did we? Well, we made the best decision we could at the time, and now we've learned, and we won't repeat that mistake.
And we've also learned, because we live in the state of Colorado, to look at their eyes and make sure they're sober when they show up. Right?
Excellent. Yeah, there's some stuff that's very legal here that may not be legal in some other states. But,
exactly.
I don't think that it's going to last much longer. I think it's going to be legal all. But anyway, we should go down the road. All right. So last question, and then we'll kind of finish up. Basically, the way I look at a business as a whole is it's a piece of leverage, and bringing people in, they're leveraging me, I'm leveraging them. What kind of leverage have you guys built, A, for your agents, and B, for yourself, that's really helped you grow to where you're at today?
Yeah, so I think it's just one of the things is our creativeness and how we can accomplish deals and get deals done. The other thing is our network. To be honest with you, it's between the coaches that we've aligned with, and then additionally, like our lead sources and how much we can provide to an agent. Those are our big leverage points.
And a leverage button that we push every now and then is when the agents say, hey, these leads aren't any good. Well, I'll get back on the phone for a month and put 20 deals on the board.
Yeah.
Because if I have to go back into production, it's my money, not their money. Right. So I'll go do that and show them it's same leads, same people you called last week. It's just how I talk to them. So that kind of leverage, having that ability to show them that everything, your systems works, is a huge leverage.
Yep.
I love that. And, it's something about leading by example. Like, I don't necessarily want to go do it either, but I've said, I'm going to be at the office tonight from 4 to 6, and I'm going to lead generate. And if you want to come in, anything I convert, I'll give to somebody who was there doing it with me. It's kind of a fun thing to do. Lead generation is more fun when you don't have to do it very often, right?
Right.
It's important. Everybody, that's my 20%. I mentioned that earlier. 20% of the day I spend doing stuff I don't necessarily want to do. But to your point, it has to get done. I love your 3 breakdowns. So lots of great takeaways today. So I'll just let Megan, I'll go to you first. What's your final thoughts? And then Parnell, and then I'll button us up. And thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for having us on. This was great to converse. But yeah, for anybody starting and looking at building a team, I would just say, trust yourself. And it's scary to hire that first admin or TC, but just know, like, every day you wake up, you can make more money. And those are really vital components. And you will thank yourself later that you've at least laid those foundational ground pieces.
Awesome. Parnell?
Get some education, read some books, get a coach. And everybody says the same books: Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The E-Myth, Think and Grow Rich, right? We talked about it at the beginning. Read those books, set your business up to be that, and don't get your core values in line. And they don't have to be ours. They don't, what do you care? One of EXP's is fun, which is great. I love the idea that your office should be fun. I don't know what that means in business, but I get it. I get they want to have fun, right? So make sure you're solid on those before you start hiring people, because if you're not, that was one of the mistakes Meg and I made. We didn't have our core value set. We started hiring people, and all of a sudden they didn't match who we were. But
we never told them who we were.
Right.
So it's that clarity and setting those expectations. Yeah. It's a good one too.
Yeah.
Laying that ground.
So much good stuff here today. Again, LabCoatAgents, we appreciate you watching and joining us today. There will be a replay of this on our YouTube channel. So if you got some great stuff and you missed something, you want to go back and watch it, then please do. I think it's worth your time. A couple of takeaways that I really just resonated with me is document. I love that. Begin with the end in mind. And, understand who you are. That's one of the other things I heard from both of you. You all know exactly who you are, and that's okay. By the way, there's good and bad things about that, but know who you are so that you can surround yourself with more people who you are. So thank you so much for being here. And by the way, you guys are in basically, we'll call it Winter Park for those non-Coloradians. So, tell us real quick before we finish up, how can we get a hold of you if we got a referral for you?
Yeah, the best thing, easiest is probably just through Instagram. We're at The Simple Life Colorado.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much, and hope to see you all again soon.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye.